Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for October 25th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and Ralph Kohler is sharing their screen. We'll start off the discussion, and also present, find the list, here we go. Also present are Avani, Arthur Schall, Rosendo Figueroa, Simo Helston, and Thomas Howell. Go ahead, Ralph.
Thanks, Benji. We are looking at issue number 3370326, refined field descriptions. That's an issue we've discussed before in September 2023. And back then, we are also looking at the following Google Sheet. I won't read the link. Apologies for that. And back then, we've discussed basically the field type descriptions in the first sheet, which covers basically the first step of the title and the description for each of those field types or groups. Some of them are groups, some of them are actual field types. And back then, we haven't had the time to cover basically the second tab, which is field type options, because a few of them are just groups. For example, if you take a look at plain text, continue, then you see you have more options with descriptions bullet pointed. And yeah, back then, I've worked on that sheet during Global Contribution Day 2023 or 2024, I'm not sure anymore. And I've already outlined a few problems, as well as, if you go down here, the current draft. At the moment, yeah, our color and current draft is identical, because it's more or less the things I've added myself. And in addition to that, it has to be noted that one related issue was brought up, improved field description, that was closed, if I'm remember correctly. And there are I've moved over a few strings that might be relevant in regards of ideation, which route to take. I think the best thing might be to go quickly through the points I've outlined there, and then we could go through the list of field types that need a discussion. Yeah, first, the label choose an option below is using directional language. Instead, simply choose an option could be used. Technically, choose a field type would be more accurate here as well. Readability of the option label is sort of challenging. First, you have the redundant field type label, then the information.
But before you get into these details, just quick, anyone need any clarification? Are people familiar with the admin screens Ralph was looking at? Okay, I don't see any questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it also has to be noted at the moment, if you take a look, the H1 is along the whole way, always at field. And if things are getting moved to the dialog model, then those steps will be properly labeled, and that way it won't be at field all the time, but instead you get the correct context each time. And yeah, the readability of the option label is sort of challenging. First, you have the redundant field type label, text, and then you have information wrapped into information of interest, which is plain, and long is wrapped into parentheses. And yeah, underneath we will see a proposed suggestion in that regard to basically redo how basically those labels are done. The order, style, and components of bullet points differ across options. Not sure if it's a good idea to start off with a field. What a field is ideal for. Instead, personally, from my perspective, it's always the better choice first to describe what a field is actually about, and at the end, at least to use a consistent pattern across all the different field types. And so that basically someone who wants to know, for example, what a field is good for, that person looks at the end. And at the beginning, start with basically what the field is actually about.
So maybe that's enough to get started. And
Okay.
so let's see, do you want to start with the H1? So are you suggesting that we
No, the suggestions on here are structured the following way. Taking a look at the text plane, for example, in gray is basically the H1, the overarching. Then next one is text plane, the title. Then here is the suggestion to what to switch to. And underneath, for example, the bullet points, just for the visual context here. But I think moving in that way might be. And I'll simply insert a column. Ability meeting.
Okay, so where are you suggesting that we put the phrase plain text?
In the H1.
So instead of add field, you want to say
Yeah.
plain text. So I think that's worth discussion. Any opinions on whether we should change the page title, the H1, from add field to plain text? I guess I think that we still want some context that we are adding a field. So perhaps add plain text field or add field : plain text.
Will that same H1 be used if and when we get this into a model? Or is the different H1 there?
That was the reason why the screen popped up again, the other window. I just wanted to quickly search alongside in the existing issues, because if I remember correctly, it's either in the dialog modal issue or there is a dedicated issue for. The plan was, from my understanding, to have dedicated steps, so different titles for each of the steps. So step 1, we choose X, then the next would be, I'm not sure what the suggestion was back there. I'm just searching for it right now.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when we do move these into modals, then I think we won't need the extra context. which also opens the possibility that maybe we should just leave the H1 alone for now, since we'll probably be changing it to be modals in one of the related issues.
Just my input on this. Yeah, I feel very like I think we should keep the add field, just because the whole purpose of that dashboard is to manage fields. So to me, that the adding the field is still the semantic H1. I think there's obviously an improvement that needs to be made, but I don't know if it's the H1 that needs to be added, like updated, just because it's related to the managed fields.
And I
Just
go ahead.
just one brief addition to, just a brief reply to the point Rosendo made. Add field is not enough in the context of a screen reader user. The H1 has basically on the page title has to communicate what a page is basically about, and add field is not correct. It's too imprecise, and you don't, because at that point you already know that this page here in this step, it's basically about a plain text, and add field is too generic, and that way the screen reader user would have to research the context and go further down the page, and that is not meeting. Don't know the success criterion from the top of my head right now, but that
Yeah.
needs an improvement.
Would it work with like add field hyphen plain text, so that way the add field is still there, like we just add additional context in the H1?
That way, the preferable way is to front load information, and the most important information in that context is plain text, and add field is basically secondary because you're already
Okay,
in the
yeah.
flow of add field, and
Correct.
therefore
Okay, I think Avani wanted to say something.
Yeah, like my point is the same. Like with the add text, can't we add additional information like uh, plain text, add field in bracket or hyphen? We can add like plain text.
Yeah, I think that in this case, sort of front loading it, making it plain text add field or something like that, seems very awkward.
Yeah.
And we're sort of in the second level of a menu where the first step is add field, and then we're in the child page of plain text. And I think that it works pretty well to start with add field, which is pretty short, and then have the field type that we've selected on the previous page.
Yeah, okay.
And we certainly are still in the add field workflow. So I think that's also important as well as the type of field that we're currently looking at. So Ralph, can you accept that compromise? Ralph, you're still muted.
Yep, apologies. So you mean add field? Oh, dash plain text, something like that. Or simply add plain text field.
I would use a colon rather than a hyphen, and I think that inserting the field type between add and field could sometimes lead to trouble depending on what the actual label is. So I think it's more reliable to have it add field colon and then the field type.
Colon is, I always mix that up. Colon is correct, comma, isn't it? No, oh no.
Colon is 2 dots.
Two dots.
Two dots, okay.
There you go. Perfect.
I always mix up that, yeah, apologies. Add field plain text, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense to me.
So then the idea is that once we have that information in the page title, we don't have to repeat it in the option headers.
And there the suggestion was simply to go with short and long. Short doesn't exist there yet, but it would be the opposite of long. And therefore I thought it might be worth to consider. Of course, you have to have something there. So
I think it feels a little strange to me, but just because I've been working for it so long, I think you're probably right that short and long are good descriptions at this stage.
any objections or other ideas?
I think
Someone's posting something in the chat.
yeah, this is some yeah. I'll answer what was discussed. It shouldn't be plain or plain long, so it should be defined as short. Because I noticed that if I follow the path of adding a text plain that says that it requires specifying a maximum length, and then I specify the field length as it's not instructed against. I define text plain to have 10 standard A4 pages, that is 18,000 characters, and then I get a weird error message with a lot of SQL saying that I should use blob and maximum is 16,383. And yeah, so if it doesn't say that it's limited to a certain length, then user, if somebody just reads what is written and follows that, can end up with a lot of SQL on their screen and error message. So I think it would be useful to either maybe in the next step define what is considered short and what is considered long also. But it should definitely have a distinction that one is short and one is long.
So that's good. It's certainly out of scope for this issue to put in the validations that you don't get an error message, but it's in scope to have some additional information on this page. Although I can't reproduce that message. I wonder what I'm doing differently from you. So Ralph, could you try Simo's experiment? go to the
Try.
add field page. Remember to give it a label.
Oops. And simply
Just choose text plain and then continue.
without a label.
Yeah, add any label.
Yeah, labels required. So just type anything.
Oops.
Oh, I broke it worse.
Mhm. That looks broken.
Yeah, sorry. I think we should, yeah, I could maybe later test this, try to break this with current dev branch. See what happens.
It's working for me. You're using my site, aren't you?
Yep. I'm getting that error.
Try reloading, I guess.
Yeah, I did several times now.
Oh. Try basic page then instead of article. Maybe there's something wrong with article. I've been looking at basic page and I'm not getting any errors there.
Okay, so
Oh yeah. There's definitely something wrong with article. Okay, so just go to basic page. You should be fine.
And here maybe put 18,000 to maximum
okay.
length.
And save.
Yeah. And then save.
You did? Oh, save twice. Ooh. Fascinating.
Oh, I think the other error maybe came if I first chose maximum length to be in the allowed range and then double saved it with bigger than allowed.
Yeah, because on my first click, basically it remained on that field settings page. And I thought it hasn't properly saved it. And therefore I clicked a second time and then the error turned up.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting error. Thank you for finding that. So back to the current issue, and I guess we still have one more content type that isn't broken, so you can recipe.
No more experiments with it.
So we should definitely file a separate issue for that.
Then you had that SQL message that kind of was shown.
Yes.
Wild. Okay, so where were we? So for now, we could simply go with short and long, and those are basically the suggestions for the bullet points.
So
Like-
let's add an extra row to this table and say something about the maximum length of the short, so that you don't have to go to the next screen to find out that 18,000 is too long for short text.
Wouldn't it be possible to basically, one second, anything, to set a maximum value there?
Yes, but what I'm saying is that before we get to this page, we should already know that 18,000 is too long.
Yeah, but what would be the maximum length for that?
Well, in the SQL message, it says that maximum is 16,383.
300. Okay.
And how do people think about short and long versus short text and long text? We're still front loading the word that's different.
Yeah,
That would
that's
be
kind
fine.
of, if somebody's too sleepy and starts thinking about integers.
I think the reason why I've went with just short and long and left out text is probably because in my current suggestion, the overall context was already about plain text. So it's about text, and you already know, okay, in that way, text there was sort of redundant if
Yeah.
the title is already using text and plain.
I agree it's redundant, but sometimes a little bit of redundancy is a good thing. But you know, I am asking for opinions.
Yeah, but here I'm thinking, now that I'm looking at that word, like it has plain text, short text, and long text. So it's kind of it's in different place and kind of it's not that bad, but then we are having like a plain text, short text, and long text. They kind of, if you say them out loud, then it sounds a little bit equal. So it's short plain text and long plain text, and then it starts getting longer and longer.
So are you saying you prefer Ralph's suggestion of just short and long?
Yeah, maybe.
Rosendo?
I'm good with the short text, long text. I think they provide proper clues. I don't think it's too redundant. I think if we keep using the word text in description a lot more, then I think that's where it'll start to become redundant. Because I'm also thinking in the context where they're placed on the screen. I get where it says add field plain text. I do believe they provide context clues down in each one.
Bonnie, Thomas, do you have a vote either way? Your vote's still muted. Oh. Go ahead. Thomas, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just saying I don't have any suggestions.
Okay. All right. So what about the other parts? What do people think about moving the ideal for blah blah blah, moving that from the first position to the last position? Last position is almost as good for discoverability as the first position, but Ralph suggests that we start off with what it does rather than where it can be used.
I think yeah, I think that it could be lost. And I'm also thinking that I think ideal is a lot to say, like a lot promising a lot. So I'm thinking we could maybe recommend, but sometimes some people find paragraphs more ideal than plain long text.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I really don't like the word ideal. Sounds like it's overpromising.
Yeah,
Ralph
or it could be
suggests-
suitable.
Ralph suggests used for, he suggests suitable for. I was thinking of recommended for. I think any of those is better, although a little bit longer than ideal for. I guess Ralph's suggestion is slightly shorter.
But from my perspective, even though recommended for is slightly longer, but I guess it's just what this line is about. It's a recommendation where to use that field type. And ideal, perfect is nothing. Nothing is perfect, and therefore I think recommended might be the better choice.
Yeah, I like recommended, and I like it at the bottom as well. I mean, I'm good with either or, but recommended, I like.
Seems like we have consensus there. And then presumably we'll follow the same pattern elsewhere.
For the rest,
I guess we already have a line in the current text that says requires specifying a maximum length, and you're suggesting requires maximum length, so a little bit shorter. And that would be a good line to add the hard-coding restriction that Simo discovered. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, or I thought maybe that restriction could also go in the first with efficient storage for short text in there. Yeah, but yeah. Maximum length might be the better. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Should it be then simply requires a maximum length of?
How about requires maximum length and then open paren up to 16,383 close paren.
Of up to or up to?
Just up to.
Just up to.
But in parentheses.
I'm not a fan of parentheses.
Well,
I wonder if it would be more descriptive, like or kind of give the. For me, it would be maybe give better understanding if it would say fixed maximum length.
Yeah, I guess
But
when you shorten requires specifying, when you shorten that to just requires, you do lose something. And I think Simo has a good suggestion. Simo, did you want to say more?
No.
Okay, Ralph?
How about simply, instead of requiring, simply stating the maximum length is up to 16,383? Or is it imprecise?
Yeah, I think that's just sort of saying what the hard maximum is and what this bullet point is trying to get across is that when you define the field, you have to choose a maximum length.
Oh, okay, good point.
And I think that Simo's suggestion is pretty clear and certainly shorter than the other options.
Could you repeat, please, then?
Fixed maximum length.
Fixed it was okay. Fixed maximum length.
Would it work with supports a maximum length up to 6383?
I think here we need to look at the country modules because if we have a maximum length module, and that's I think it's quite popular nowadays.
Okay.
Then it can for long text it can have different maximum lengths for different forms using the field. And I think there is a technical maximum also for blob in database, but it's not so it's not so limited as this 16,000.
Gotcha.
And should characters be added at the end?
I don't think so. And any particular reason?
Yeah, just to label what these 16,383 actually are.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like adding context there up to 16,383 characters.
Okay.
And the other two?
Sufficient storage for short text is what we currently have.
Yeah.
Can we have something that describes, because we are talking about plain text here, so unformatted without markup, it's for any plain text. So do we repeat characteristics that are not related to whether it's short or long? So it's also nice to have all the kind of relevant information, like restrictions displayed in one place, so that you just need to check one list. But it says for both of them that it's unformatted without markup.
As you can see on the field on the group description, we already have does not support markup. So we are I'm not sure if we should repeat it there. You may be right, yeah. So strike that.
I think so.
And so basically it's simply efficient storage for short text, fixed maximum length up to 16,030, and recommended for titles and names. Those three basically.
I think
on
having 3 items instead of 4 is a big advantage.
Yeah, I agree. And then on the efficient storage, I don't know your thoughts. This is where I feel like the redundancy. So I know we were 50-50 on the short text short. If it's short, I would just say efficient storage for short text makes sense. But if it's short text, then I think we don't really need to say for short text because it's redundant now. So we could just say efficient storage.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, I could go with that.
Does storage include both reading and writing, or store like a kind of the space that data takes and the kind of the time it takes to write or read it?
I think that's a level of detail that we don't really need. And
Yeah.
as usual, less is more. So Rosendo's suggestion is making it smaller. Let's not make it larger after that. Go ahead, Ralph.
The only worry I have, efficient storage for short text, even that way it's clear. If you just write efficient storage, the context of short text is sort of clear, but standalone, just efficient storage, at least it makes me think for a second. Yeah.
Do we need to have the word short there?
We have the label for this option is short. We agreed on short text. So yeah, that does seem redundant.
Should we have that first, the kind of hard limitations or features, like the kind of the attributes of the short text or whatever field type it is, and then how they kind of affect the overall, and then the recommendation. So I'm thinking maybe put first that fixed maximum length, because that kind of efficient storage kind of results from that.
That way.
I kind of like having the advantage of this format come first, and then have the restriction on it come second.
And be either way. I guess that's a personal preference for everyone.
I think we should just take care that it's basically consistent across all the options, all the field options. That the bullet points have the same pattern. That, for example, recommended for is always at the last point, and for the others, we just have to set a pattern, I suppose.
Right, and the pattern I'm suggesting is that we start with why you would want to use this option, end with recommended for blah, 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 and any other information goes in between those.
Yeah.
Try not to have an overwhelming number of bullet points or I think even 3 is better than 4.
So the following pattern: why first, recommended best.
Pros, cons, recommended use.
Yeah.
So we have less than 10 minutes left. Let's see if we can get the corresponding suggestions for long text.
That could be striked.
That's right.
I suppose the why would be no length limit.
That's not strictly true, although as Sima points out, it can be very, very long. So for practical purposes on you know, text on a web page, it's sort of true. But the existing text supports long text without specifying a maximum length. I wonder if we should add something and say no soft length limit, no arbitrary length limit, no. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that the only limit is what your database can support, and we're not being any more strict than that. I wonder if we can get that across without saying all that.
Going based off the words used at the top, would it make sense to say no fixed character limit? Since we're using the word fixed with characters.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And then we can get rid of the length.
Yeah, say character instead of length.
Or or use analogous to the short text instead of fixed maximum length, no fixed maximum length.
That could work as well.
I was also thinking that we might follow this pattern in the previous one and say fixed character length, and then we can say up to 16,383. But maybe we shouldn't strike the word maximum, because that suggests that you have to type whatever. Yeah, if this is a 300 character field, you have to type 300 characters into it. We don't want to say that. So here, do we want to say no fixed character limit or no fixed maximum limit? Or no fixed maximum?
No fixed maximum length would be my suggestion to align it basically.
Yes, okay.
But one
May
thought.
Use more storage. Go ahead.
Just one thought. If you put the short text and long text next to each other, and since we are more or less aligned the last and the first or the second in that case, the fixed maximum length to no fixed maximum length, I wonder because the why there is the efficient storage, and compared to that is basically here the caveat, meaning more storage and slower searching and sorting.
Yeah, so my suggestion of listing the pro and then listing the cons sort of guarantees that we will not be lining up similar information.
Hmm.
We only have 3 minutes left, so let's not make a final decision on the ordering now, but do think about the wording of this last one. Is it accurate to say that it may use more storage? I mean, doesn't it always use more storage?
How is a blob stored? Can it be more than? Can it be less than 16,000 bytes? Or if it's Unicode characters, then it's 16,000 words or something like that.
I guess my question here, real quick, because I only have a few minutes, is it possible for someone to select long text and actually use a shorter amount of text? Because that's where the may make more sense. Like you could still select long text and still use less than 16,000 characters.
Yeah, so I guess unless we're sure, we should stick with the current text. And I'm certainly not sure.
Do we want to put them in the same order though, so they're like lined up right across each other? Like
Yeah,
the storage is at the top.
That's what we were talking about a minute ago, and I think we just don't have enough time to
Okay.
make a final decision on that. And I think we do have to wrap now. So we've made some progress. I think we all have the link to the Google spreadsheet. So we can look at that some more if we have time over the week. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed in the meeting chat, Avani suggested efficient storage for concise text several minutes ago. So that would be, do we want to add a little bit to, that sign? I'm still thinking that less is more here. Any other opinions?
I feel the same way.
Okay, so let's wrap it there. Thanks for coming. And of course, we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.